Once upon a time, a conflict emerged in the vast global landscape of trade and commerce that captured the attention of nations far and wide. The EU-China trade conflict. This economic titanic struggle impacts enterprises, employees, and customers, reverberating throughout industries. The European Union is left to deal with the problems arising from China's swift climb to economic dominance, which has upended the existing trade dynamics. Due to China's state-led economic model, the EU is caught in a complicated web of trade imbalances and intellectual property issues. Also, the international body worries about unfair trade practices. Today, we will talk about the origins of the EU-China trade war. Next, we will see the impact of this trade conflict on a global scale. Finally, what the next step in resolving this trade war is. Stay tuned for all you need to know about the European Union-China trade conflict. Subscribe to the channel for more global economic insights. The EU and China's interactions in trade and investment are of utmost importance. With daily transactions averaging more than 1.5 billion euros, the EU and China act as vital marketplaces for one another. China's domestic market, consisting of 1.4 billion consumers and the third largest economy globally, offers business opportunities for European firms. When given the chance to compete and succeed in these markets, European businesses support the European economy by producing direct benefits. These advantages take the shape of more significant exports, innovation, and global competitiveness. They can also be in the form of higher productivity brought on by the ability to operate on a bigger scale. The bilateral ties between the EU and China have noticeably deteriorated over the past year. This occurrence is because there are more sources of conflict now than previously. These roots include China's trade actions against the single market, its stance on the conflict in Ukraine, and China's retaliatory moves in reaction to EU penalties on human rights. China's economic rise is one of the leading causes of the trade war. China has soared into a potent global player over the past few decades. The Red Dragon has utilized its enormous industrial capacity and competitive advantages to become the world's top exporter. This quick increase has upended traditional trade patterns and caused anxiety among EU countries about fair competition. The Middle Kingdom's distinctive state-led economic model has also exacerbated the trade conflict. This strategy, marked by heavy government intervention and subsidies, frequently causes market distortions. Therefore, it is difficult for European enterprises to compete fairly. As a result of China's low enforcement and inadequate protection of intellectual property, EU industries have suffered major losses. These setbacks have increased worries over intellectual property rights abuses. The significant trade deficit between the EU and China is a crucial factor igniting the trade war. Chinese imports have constantly flooded the EU's markets, while European exports encounter obstacles and limitations when trying to enter China. The EU's manufacturers, who struggle to remain competitive despite cheaper imports, have been most harmed by this mismatch. The EU has conducted several trade investigations and implemented measures to combat unfair trade practices to address these concerns. These steps include imposing anti-dumping tariffs on particular Chinese imports and investigating activities that distort the market. The European Union seeks to safeguard its sectors and guarantee a level playing field for European enterprises. It will adopt a strong position against alleged unfair trade practices. Europe, China, and the United States are the world's three major trading partners. The EU advocates free trade with China, highlighting the significance of ethical business practices. The EU is a strong proponent of the defense of intellectual property rights and China's compliance with its duties as a WTO member. China pledged to conduct reforms and liberalize major portions of its economy when it joined the WTO in 2001. Despite some progress, some problems need to be resolved. Transparency is still challenging because China's economic policies and decision-making procedures are opaque. Foreign businesses are subjected to discrimination through non-tariff and industrial policies, restricting their market access and reducing their competing abilities. Both parties' participation has dramatically altered the nature of the EU and China's trade relationship. There are far-reaching ramifications for numerous sectors and the overall world economy. The EU took quick action by slapping duties on various Chinese commodities in response to worries about market distortions, dumping tactics, and intellectual property theft. These tariffs were implemented to level the playing field and safeguard European businesses from unjustified rivalry. Particularly impacted industries included technology, steel, and agriculture as the EU worked to protect its domestic markets and promote its producers. Nevertheless, China showed some resistance to these measures. The Chinese government replied by putting into effect a set of their remedies. These include tariffs on European products and specific limitations on particular businesses. This tit-for-tat strategy increased hostilities and worsened the trade dispute between the two economic giants. This trade battle has had significant and wide-ranging effects. Businesses in the EU and China have to change their sourcing strategy to lessen the impact of tariffs. Maintaining profitability and market competitiveness has proven difficult for manufacturers, particularly those dependent on imports or exports. Consumers are now paying more for various goods due to the additional expenses brought on by tariffs. In addition, uncertainty over the stability of the world economy has been exacerbated by the trade dispute between the EU and China. Any rifts in their relationship have wider repercussions for other economies because they are two key actors in global trade. Due to the uncertainties surrounding trade policies and the possibility of an escalation, investors and businesses are constantly monitoring the situation. The likelihood of a trade conflict resolution between the EU and China is still unclear. A mutually advantageous trade agreement has been sought after diplomatically by both parties. However, there are still substantial obstacles to be addressed. Market access, intellectual property rights, and government subsidies are all complex problems that require cautious negotiation and compromise. The 2019 EU Strategic Outlook emphasizes the concepts of reciprocity, a level playing field, and fair competition. It serves as the EU's roadmap for its commercial interaction with China. Improving market access prospects for European enterprises is a vital component of this approach. Additionally, it urges China's active participation in global forums to address the issue of overcapacity. The EU-China Investment Agreement is essential to long-term bilateral relations with China. The Comprehensive Agreement on Investment, CAI, was the subject of lengthy negotiations in 2013. It was finally signed in its preliminary form between the EU and China on December 30, 2020. The CAI is a crucial turning point since it gives EU investors better market access to China. China has promised to treat EU businesses doing business there somewhat, fostering a more level playing field for competitors. These promises include rules against coerced technology transfers, disclosure of subsidies, and state-owned enterprise openness. The CAI's agreed norms set an impressive benchmark for openness, fair competition, market accessibility, and sustainable growth. The EU is concurrently vigorously emphasizing its efforts to create independent measures relating to due diligence and subsidies. Furthermore, China has agreed to include clauses linked to sustainable development, such as pledges to combat climate change and end forced labor. The sleeping giant has proactively committed to implementing the Paris Climate Agreement and the UNFCCC. This action indicates its commitment to environmental and climate challenges. China has vowed to support sustainable development and made its readiness to work with the EU on ecological measures clear. The Chinese government has pledged to effectively execute the International Labour Organization (ILO) conventions that it has ratified in the area of labor. Both parties have also agreed to support investment strategies that support the goals of the Decent Work Agenda. they have mutually agreed upon continuing talks on investment protection and resolving investment disputes. Within 2 years of the agreement being signed, these conversations are anticipated to be concluded. This shows the dedication of both China and the EU to resolving potential future problems and supplying a safe and stable investment environment. The European Union and China must prioritize compromise and seek win-win solutions to define future trade relations. Collaboration efforts can involve enforcing more significant enforcement measures to guarantee adherence to trade laws and intellectual property rights. Additionally, essential are initiatives that increase market access and foster trust, lowering trade obstacles. A protracted trade war may result in more economic disruptions that affect consumers, firms, and global supply chains. This situation might lead the EU and China to consider diversification tactics. The European Union and China could look for new trading partners and regional trade agreements. Another option is a move toward selective decoupling. Particular sectors or businesses are untethered to reduce reliance and protect concerns about national security. Such decoupling initiatives, however, would face their own set of difficulties. These strains include higher prices, decreased efficiency, and detrimental creativity and technological development effects. What do you think about the EU-China trade war? Leave your thoughts in the comment box below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video.